Can emptying downtown office buildings really help solve America's housing crisis? The nation is in the grip of a crushing housing shortage. Experts predict that many office buildings, often located in urban city centers and on the edge of suburbs, will never return to full capacity, as many remote workers have not agreed to return to their desks full-time. Workers in the nation's most expensive cities with long and expensive commutes have been particularly resistant to returning to their offices, even as the threat of the COVID-19 pandemic fades. Some office buildings may indeed include additional uses as apartments, and other types of housing. While this type of large-scale transformation won't solve the housing crisis, it could add desperately needed housing stock to the market. Nationally, offices had an occupancy rate of just 43% in the week ending August 24, according to security systems company Castle. Residential office remodeling has happened in the past. In fact, it's been happening slowly since the 2010s, when the nation was in the throes of the Great Recession. Last year, more than 8,000 apartment units were estimated to have been created from former office buildings, according to rental website Rent Cafe. Most of the units have been completed in Philadelphia and Washington, D.C., and the majority for this year are in Los Angeles and Cleveland. Some office towers may go the way of dead malls, which many cities have repurposed into developments that blend shopping with housing, entertainment and dining. One of the problems with trying to repurpose these types of buildings as residential is that these areas have higher costs, a lot more regulatory barriers and long project timelines, says Jason M. Ward, co-director of the RAND Center for Housing and the Homeless in Los Angeles. The cost of the conversion, along with the challenges of high labor and supply chain issues and zoning changes that would be required, could take several years, says national real estate appraiser Jonathan Miller. Some companies, mainly financial and legal firms, have already invited employees to return to the office 5 days a week. But many employers face the reality that their employees may choose not to return to the office full-time. New York City had the lowest office occupancy rate of the 10 cities tracked by Costell. Only 35.3% of workers returned to their cubicles in the week ending August 24. The remaining almost 20% of these workers will go to their offices 5 days a week. They have to pay to heat and cool the space, clean it and provide electricity, technicians, office equipment and machinery. The problem is that businesses typically lock into office leases for anywhere from 5 to more than 20 years. So a company that signed a new lease or renewed an existing one right before the pandemic could be locked in for almost 2 more decades. As the corporate tenants move out and continue to downsize over the next few years, the viability of these office buildings will come more into focus. Older, generic office buildings, often built in the 70s and 80s, scattered throughout city centers, and located in suburban office parks or near highways, are the most vulnerable to conversions. These Class C buildings, as they are known, often lack the amenities modern workers want, such as lots of natural light and indoor-outdoor spaces, and are generally not as energy efficient as newer buildings. These buildings are experiencing their midlife crises and are ripe to become something else, Hayden tells Lou. The firm recently completed the Franklin Tower residences, creating approximately 550 luxury apartments from a former office tower in Philadelphia. And even in mostly empty buildings, it's likely that a few tenants will hold out until their leases expire, which could be years. However, Pinder believes most cities will begin these transformations within the next few years. The old job of the office was to be the place where people came to do work. Now it should be the place where people come to connect and build relationships with each other, Krupp says.